Good Friday to you all. Welcome. It's good to see you all this morning. John says finally got some good sunshine. Yeah, we're in the 60s this week. Crazy how the weather is. Although here in Colorado Springs, we will get our winter blast sometime in February, no doubt. We usually have a couple of weeks it gets down to zero, and sometimes the high is below zero. So this could be the little teaser, and then the blast, and then spring. But we'll see. Anyway, it's good to see you all this morning. So, oh yeah, Happy Olympics. Yeah, that starts tonight, doesn't it? Are you all Olympics fans? Will you watch them? It's in Italy, right? So the timing shouldn't be as crazy as sometimes it is. So let's do a quick check in on our prayer requests. I hope you are praying with me. And then we're going to talk about how to move forward in some of the things we have discussed about trying to be useful and make a difference and change some things. So we're going to talk about that very practically, how to go about that. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. But first, our prayer requests. Remember, we have seen together and discussed together how when the child is born, when the son is given, when the Messiah comes, the government of the nations will be put on his shoulders. He will rule the nations in righteousness and justice and mercy, and there will be no end to the increase of his government or of peace. And that child was born. That son has come. He is reigning. The king is on his throne. That means he is ruling the nations in justice and righteousness, and he is increasing peace. He is increasing his rule across this world. And how is he doing that? He's doing that through his people. So, to that end, I have set my own course of prayer seeking the Lord. Remember, we talked about the Lord's Prayer, and we are to pray, Thy kingdom come, which means Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We want the will of the Lord Jesus to be done on earth just like it's being done in heaven. So I have set my course of prayer asking that his will be done on earth and that he would send his heavenly host. He is the Lord of hosts, the commander in chief of all the armies of heaven, asking that he would send his armies into particular areas that I see as, the first targets, the most important current targets in increasing peace and his rule and so on. Now, I don't know everything. There may be better targets, but from what I can discern, this is what I'm asking for. And I've encouraged you to pray with me. And if you decide to pray for something else, great. And as I want to remind you all the time, the Lord will take our requests and hear them and respond to them. And he may, like in this case, he may decide there are better targets than the ones that I express, in which case, great. I will submit to his wisdom and watch to see what he does. But we have to know what we're praying for so we can observe. So all that is just a reminder. Hey, David, you said this is your first time on Friday. Is that right? Well, welcome. Glad that you are here. So the three areas, one of them that I'm praying for, and I urge you to pray with me about, is the fraud in Minnesota, that the Lord would expose it all, bring it all to light, and bring those who are doing the fraud to justice. Have we seen anything in the last week on that? It seems like the distraction, the protests, which are not protests at all, but they are well-funded insurrections, basically. It seems like the news on that front has been somewhat muted this week. I know there was some discussion about ICE and ICE approaching things a little differently. But have you seen any news on what's happening with the fraud? Has there been any movement on that this week? Anybody? I can't recall anything significant. I know there's been some charges, some arrests, some investigations going on with the governor and with Ilhan Omar. She's a rep, right? Not a senator, a rep. Which all of that could lead to all kinds of stuff coming out. Anyways, anybody have anything on that? Not seeing any comments come in here, but that doesn't mean there's not stuff going on that we just don't know about yet. So we've certainly seen enough progress over the last several weeks, in my opinion, to say the Lord is moving, and I have reason to believe that he is going to expose it and bring the leaders and the perpetrators to justice. Just imagine for a moment. If it's true, and I don't know if it's true, but if it's true that the governor and others around the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, if he has either been part of the significant fraud that has taken place or knew it was happening and turned a blind eye, and that's all exposed, that's going to be wonderful. If the whole Somalian story that we've seen, there was the story of Ilhan Omar starting a business that wasn't a real business and millions of dollars being funneled through that. If that's all true, and again, I don't know if it's true or not. I'm very cautious to accept what I see by the reporters, but if there's anything to that, and that all gets exposed, and I think I saw the president, somebody this week mentioned, the billions of dollars that they think fraud that's happened there, and that states like California is full of many times that, and this all gets exposed. There are so many great consequences of that. So keep praying, keep asking the Lord to send his armies to expose all of this. Frank says Omar is blaming Trump for staged attack. Omar staged that fake attack with apple cider vinegar. Yeah, I saw some of that as well. I don't know. Has that been proven? It wouldn't be surprising, would it? And if so, it's just going to be part of that exposing and humiliating that I've been praying for the fraudulent actors there, if that's true. So keep praying for that. How about the Iran regime? That was the second prayer request, is that Iran, the regime currently in power, would fall. And for a while, it looked like it was going to fall through military action. That hasn't happened. And I think it was Secretary Bessent said yesterday that he has reason to believe that the leaders are transferring money. And what was the phrase he used? The rats are fleeing the boat or something like that. That he has reason to believe that the leaders are scrambling and preparing to run an abandoned ship kind of thing. I saw something this morning where there was some indication. Someone was speculating that the negotiations and the hard line they appear to be taking on nuclear weapons is a stall tactic while they get their stuff in order and to get out of there. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how we'll prove that until it's actually happening. But it does seem like there's some movement there. And when I say pray that the regime will fall, I mean, I think it would be great if it wasn't that somebody had to go blow them up with bombs and things. If they flee the country, I'd love for them to be held accountable for some of the things they've done. If Iran is freed and then a better form of government can take place there, that's a net win everywhere. So keep praying. Keep praying the Lord would bring that about. And then the third one is election fraud in the U.S. So you've seen, no doubt, if you've been paying attention, and Sana, maybe your husband has told you about this. I think you said that's where you get all your news. The Congress on both houses apparently are really pushing hard to get a vote on the SAVE Act next week. It appears to me the SAVE Act is significant in moving forward in fair and secure elections. I hope it's true. I'll tell you, there is still a part of me when it comes to this kind of thing that doubts. I just don't trust Congress. Even those like I looked up her name. I keep forgetting this woman. Anna Paulina Luna, is that her name? I think she's been one of the most vocal. I think she's a representative, not a senator. She's been great as far as pushing this forward and trying to attach it to other bills and so on. I don't know enough. I can't read her mind. I don't know her motives, but I tend to interpret these things, even if they get everything they want. They have to prove that they know what they're doing. I think there's a lot of incompetence in Congress, and then there's a lot of corruption as well. I don't have any reason to suspect her motives and say she's corrupt. Are the formulators of these kinds of bills, are they competent to pass a law that will actually do what we want them to do? I don't know. I'm skeptical. But it's better than nothing, it seems to me. So I'm praying for the success that this does come to a vote. And I'll say this about Leader Thune in the Senate side. I thought he was a rhino. Since he's been made speaker, I'm pretty pleased with what I've seen. I know there's a lot of people, and I'm just as skeptical of the conservative pundits as I am the liberals. It's amazing how often they state things that I don't see how they could possibly know. On X or wherever you get your news, it's that whole arena is full of mind readers. They are convinced they can read minds. They just say stuff that I think, how in the world could they know that? And when they say sources say, yeah, especially if they're anonymous sources. So I'm just going to go on record here and say, so far, I'm impressed with Leader Thune. He seems tactful and wise. It sure appears, has been in regular communication with the Speaker of the House and the President. And so I'm going to wait and see how this all goes before I judge it. I'm certainly not going to judge him based on what a bunch of online people are saying. Anyway, seems like there's movement there on getting rid of election fraud in the U.S., at least at the federal level. Now, here in Colorado, I'm persuaded there's layers and layers and layers of it on the state level, and I don't know. I don't think the federal government has the authority to regulate state elections and local elections, so I don't know how that's all going to shake out. But anyway, are you praying? Anybody else have any updates on any of those things? Sona says, I'm very fuzzy. Oh, yeah. Oh, now it just cleared up. I did upgrade my camera. I wonder, and I had to move it around a little bit. I wonder if it's having trouble focusing on the right thing. Let me know if it keeps coming back, because I have to look over there to see it, and it seems to be clear now, right? All right. Well, if you have any updates or news that I missed, fill us in. All right. So that's just one aspect of this. If you, I'm moving around a little bit to see if it has a hard time focusing. Again, going back to what we started with in early January on thinking through from the cosmic level of Jesus ruling the nations and all of those things that I stated at the beginning. Then there's the personal level, right? So I am praying, and I'm asking you to join me in that prayer as a cosmic attack against evil. The Lord knows all. He has a huge army at his disposal. it's his inheritance. The nations are his inheritance. He cares more than any of us do about ruling the nations in righteousness and justice. And when I look at all the things I can't know, I just mentioned, Leader Thune might be a rhino, but he might not. I can't know for sure. But Jesus knows. And so I rest knowing that I'm asking the Lord to do what the scripture says he's going to do, and then watch and see what he does. And if our politicians are part of the corruption, then I'm, no matter who they are, whether I like them or not, I ask the Lord to expose them and replace them with betters. That's the cosmic level. But then there's the personal level, the things that you and I can do to be more useful, to bring peace and justice. And as Paul in Romans 14 talks about, the kingdom is righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. I can act rightly, and I can encourage others to act rightly. I can pursue peace with all men. And remember, that idea of peace is bigger than just absence of conflict. It's also, blessing and prosperity and abundance. That's the idea of the shalom blessing from the law of Moses that carries over into the New Testament teaching about peace. And then joy. And for me, as I read it, going back to the original commands given to Adam and Eve, part of this is productivity, ruling and subduing, increasing usefulness in this world. And we talk about these things all the time. So I went through the last several Fridays and kind of gave a vision for how I see this working out. And you've got to decide what you're going to do. But there are some people that just say, I sort of get it. Show me how. Well, today I want to talk through for a few minutes how to actually get stuff done, or how to actually pursue something worthwhile. So you've got to decide what you should be pursuing, but then maybe I can help you be more productive and get somewhere. So I would say step one, hold on, there's a chat says sort of related, but what about the people who say we can't change the culture without changing hearts through the gospel? Should we seek for cultural change apart from telling people the gospel? Yeah, absolutely. I think we should. That sounds good on paper, especially if you're coming from a, total depravity system. But okay, let's take President Trump. He continues to make comments about heaven and about God. He made some comments yesterday at the prayer breakfast that indicate to me he does not understand the gospel. He does not, though I've heard him say at least once he's a Christian and he promotes Christianity. I don't have any good evidence to suggest that he is devoted from his heart to the Lord Jesus. Okay. Now, again, I don't know. I'm just saying all I can work with is what I hear him say. And it seems to me like he doesn't understand the truth of the gospel. Okay. So let's start with that. Whether that's true or not, that's my starting premise here. He has done so much to change the culture. His personal belief is important for him because someday he's going to stand before that judge. And if he didn't know that judge and didn't know that king and that savior, then that's going to be a bad day for him. However, the policies he's putting in place and the kind of things he's saying all the time, I saw an article yesterday about prayer. The Department of Education has laid the foundation for more approval of prayer in the schools. All of those kinds of things, and he calls out oppression against Christians regularly. Trump does. That all has impact on culture. And the anti-woke approach he's taking to everything, that has impact on culture. And I've said this, and you've heard me say this for a couple of years, those of you who've been following, maybe longer. Maybe the greatest thing that's going to come out of all this is the dismantling of the Department of Education. That department has had so much destructive and evil impact on students in government schools, instilling in them an atheistic, Marxist worldview, even without using those terms, that it's the reason why the woke stuff and the transgender stuff had such success for a while, is largely because of the Department of Education. And you could argue the failure of parents, but those parents, most of them were trained and educated in government schools. So by weakening the Department of Education and by almost single-handedly loosening the grip of wokeness in this country, he's having a huge impact on culture, which gives you and me more freedom and impact to bring a Christian worldview. So in my opinion, absolutely we can change culture. Part of it is certainly preaching the gospel, but I think that's part of the devil's psyop that he has used to keep Christians from having a bigger impact by thinking, well, the only thing I can do is preach the gospel. And until we have a world full of Christians, nothing's going to change. And I don't think that's true at all. Reg over on Facebook says, a prophetic guy named Kim Clement said Trump would be God's man like Cyrus was to clean up the corruption. And it's all written in Isaiah 45 because Trump is the 45th president. Check it out. You can't go wrong with the scriptures. Also look to Isaiah 47. Yeah. Well, I don't think Isaiah 45 and 47 have anything to do with it, but I do think there's a parallel. I mean, the comparison to Cyrus is not crazy, but tying it to Isaiah 45 and 47, there's just no biblical warrant for that at all. God didn't inspire the numbering of the chapters, and the Septuagint doesn't have all the same chapter numbers. So yeah, I wouldn't go there. Yeah, JGR, Texas is allotting $1 billion for private homeschooling. Excellent. All right, so yeah, Chad, that's how I would respond. All right, so let's get back to moving forward individually. And again, you have to choose what you're going to do, but I think we just so easily go about our days and our weeks and our months and our lives on autopilot, doing the same thing we always do. And you look back, we talked about this, you look back at 2025, did you do anything on purpose? Did you accomplish anything? Are you more useful than you were at the beginning of 2025? I think we have to shift the mindset and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to pursue something. And here at least is how I approach it. And this has been effective for me. The first step is choose your goal. What is it you want to accomplish? Maybe it's improved relationships. Maybe it's greater wealth. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's learning to play an instrument. What are you trying to do? And dream a little. Remember we talked about when we looked at Covey's 7 Habits and how everything is created twice. It's first created in the mind before it's created in the world. Dream a little. Right? What is something worth pursuing? And dream about it. Let's take something practical. Let's say you're married, and this would apply to really any relationship, but let's start there. If you're married, you think, our marriage could be better. Dream a little bit about what a better marriage would look like. Can you envision it? Can you see it in your mind's eye? It may be that your marriage is really great. Well, can you think of any way that it could be better? We go on more vacations. maybe. Or maybe it's just you're in a really tough spot and you think, if we just spent some time together more regularly and had pleasant conversation that didn't turn into a fight, or, whatever. Um, Dream, envision it, get a view of what it would look like. I think that's the first step is to have the goal, have the clarity of what would be good. Maybe it's you want to learn how to play the guitar or piano. Right? Imagine yourself. You don't play guitar, but pick one of your favorite songs and imagine yourself playing that song. Inviting some friends over and say, let me play for you something, a song I've been working on. Have a vision, have a dream of what that would be like. Maybe it's to lean up and get fit. Right? Envision looking in the mirror and saying, I've made progress. I look good. Imagine putting on the pair of pants that you want to wear but you can't fit into. Whatever, but you got to have a clear view of what you're trying to accomplish, it seems to me. Second step, at least as I approach it, is to formulate a plan. So I want to improve my marriage. All right. I have a vision of, my wife and I going out regularly to dinner and having just really great conversation. Okay. So now I need to formulate a plan. I need to, at least this is how I look at it. First of all, I need to plan planning time. And I did this for years when our kids were young and my wife was all in on homeschooling and such. I think I've shared with you, we had a weekly date night without fail because we just didn't have a lot of other time together. She was busy. I was growing a church and writing books and a ministry and in seminary and all these things, right? So I had to be a little more intentional then than I do now to make that time just to have time to talk and so on. So I set aside a planning time every Monday and planned my whole week. And part of that was planning our dates and so on. So planning, and that included, what are we going to talk about? So on a Monday, I would plan for our date the next Monday night. Here's where we're going to go, which allows me to put on the schedule if I need to make reservations or whatever. And here are some things we're going to discuss. And then just enjoy it. Sometimes it wasn't we're going to discuss. Sometimes it was going to go see a music group or a play or something and just enjoy. But, giving some thought to how am I going to make sure this happens on a regular basis? The plan would be, how often are we going to do this? Is it always going to be a dinner date? What else might we do that would cultivate conversation? Maybe we need to go on more walks or whatever. But formulate a plan based on what you envision, and then you have to decide. You have to decide. So much doesn't get done or accomplished because we don't decide, I'm doing this. I am going to lose 15 pounds of fat. I am going to learn how to play the guitar. I am going to make regular time with my wife or my kids or whoever, my mom, my dad, whatever. You have to decide, not because we get the dopamine, the planning for a lot of us, we get the dopamine hit. We love that. It feels good. We feel like we're doing something. You're not doing anything when you're just planning. I think you need the plan, but you haven't done anything. No, at least the way I approach it is once I can envision what I want to do and I've given thought to a plan, that gives me what I need to make a decision. Okay, I have a goal in mind. I did this last year with the classical guitar I've told you about. My undergraduate degree is in music, classical guitar. After I graduated, I hardly touched the classical guitar for, how many years was that? 30 plus years. Last year, I knew I was about to be an empty nester. And for a variety of reasons, I thought I have the time. And I envisioned myself playing some of the songs I remember playing way back when. And then I thought through, how can I get there? Well, though my classical guitar chops had diminished greatly over 3 decades, my knowledge of music and my knowledge of how to practice music well has increased exponentially because I've still been involved in a lot of music over the decades, just not classical guitar. So I was convinced I could accomplish in about 15 or 20 minutes a day what in college it took me, an hour to accomplish. So I said, okay, I will set aside this amount of time, 15, 20 minutes, 5 days a week. And here's where I'm going to, do that. So I have a vision, I have a plan. And now it was the moment of decision. Am I going to do this or not? And it was the week between Christmas and New Year's of 2024 that I had all this in mind. It's like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. I decided I'm doing it. If I had left it in the category of, that'd be fun, I should do that. That'd be great. I can imagine myself, practicing every day and so on. And then, inviting my kids over. They've not heard me play classical guitar much because I just couldn't do it when they were young. Like envision, or the fellowship, our home fellowship. I'd love to play for them sometime, just a song and see what they, just to have a little audience. That kind of, all that, it feels good, but it accomplishes nothing until you decide I'm doing it. And so January 1, I did it. I decided. And guess what I did on January 1? I got out my classical guitar. I got out my very beginning exercises and music, and it was something. I thought, have I really ever done this before? Can you imagine what it's like? I know I have, but man, my fingers have forgotten so much. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go back to the simplest, rudimentary elements of classical guitar: sitting properly, holding the guitar properly, and doing some of the arpeggio exercises that, just are so basic. And I spent my 15 minutes, and that's all I needed to. It's like, I'm going to do this for 15 minutes and then be done. I'm not going to, so sometimes, and I've done this, and I bet you've done it as well. You start off on something and think, this is great. I'm going to spend an hour. I'm going to spend 2 hours on this. And then you're discouraged or, whatever. You sort of got it all out there, and then you don't do it. But I just stuck to the plan. Going to do 15 minutes a day. And tomorrow I'm going to pick my guitar up for another 15 minutes. And I'm going to, do this each day, 5 days a week minimum. And then there's one other piece that may be the most important of all that I want to talk to you about, but I see some comments here. Amy says, taking my 10-year-old son to his first guitar lesson next week. Hey, excellent. Excellent. I will tell you, everything hinges on getting a good teacher. There are some really awful guitar teachers out there. So don't lock in unless you're convinced that this teacher will truly help him get somewhere. Rex says, yes, dream and follow God's rules and roles for a husband and wife. The feminist movement wants to remove men from final say in a marriage. The husband must be the president and the wife must be the vice president. Yeah, the language I use is captain of first officer. Mine went blank there for a minute. David says, it's being focused on finishing a novel for me. Great until I sit down to finish. Huh. Yeah. I get that. Does your dream include playing some classical guitar for us? I don't know. Maybe. Whoa, that's a lot, Reg. That is a lot for chat here. All right, so maybe the most important thing, and this ties into my thumbnail, you have to talk to yourself. Now, let me clarify what I mean. My wife talks to herself all the time. In fact, she does it around the office at work, and everyone in the office is now familiar with it, and they expect it, and they say she's having a team meeting. And I'll catch her in the kitchen just talking. Like, are you talking to me? Like, nope, she's just talking through whatever she's doing. That's not what I'm talking about. That's great. That's fine if you want to do that. But what I mean is, once you set out to do this, right? You've envisioned it, you've planned, you've decided I'm doing it, and now you're acting. Maybe I didn't emphasize that. That's the actual doing it. That's okay, I've decided, and now, boom, I'm doing it. And you just have to just keep following your plan. You do. Again, we get the dopamine hits. We love thinking, planning, talking about it, but doing is the thing, right? Getting after it. But then you get all the voices in your head. It might be voices that are in your own head. Sometimes they're also encouraged by voices outside. It's amazing how many people want to discourage you from really accomplishing something, or they say things and maybe don't realize that it sure sounds to you like they're discouraging you. By the way, I would just say for you, try not to be that way. We need a lot more people encouraging others that they can get things done. They can learn this. They can lose the weight. They can go forward. Be that kind of person. But even if you're surrounded with those kind of people, the voices in your head so often are, It could be lazy. The guitar is all the way over there, and I really ought to be doing this. You blew your diet yesterday, so does it really matter if I blow it today? Or you blew it this morning. Well, I'll wait till tomorrow then to start. So then you eat a bunch of stuff you shouldn't eat the rest of the day. Or I'll wait till Monday. How many things get put off to Monday? And all of those voices, we allow them to influence us. And discouragement is one of the loudest voices so often. You don't really think you can do this, right? What makes you think you can now lose 15 pounds? You've tried so many times and failed. Just, is it really that big of a deal? You're not young anymore. Back in your 20s when you had 3 or 4 hours a day to practice guitar, yeah, you could really get somewhere, but come on, are you really going to get anywhere in 15 minutes a day? Your marriage it's not that bad. And, you don't want to make an idol out of marriage. You don't want to get too caught up in worldly pleasure and marriage is to make you holy, not happy. And plus your spouse, your wife she's on board. She doesn't really care, or she's not likely to make any changes. Or if we go to dinner regularly, we're probably just going to fight anyway. And it's expensive and our budget's tight. So we're just going to fight about that. And all these voices, can you relate? Can anybody relate? All these voices come in your head that fight against you acting on the decision you made. And I'm telling you, you need to stop listening to them. You need to tell your head what is true. I can do this. I will do this. I will accomplish these things. And yep, yesterday, I just decided for whatever reason not to practice guitar. I'm doing it today. Yeah, but nope, no yeah buts. Eliminate the yeah buts. Today I'm doing it. I am going to eat the way I planned to eat. I am going to go on that walk. I am going to lift weights. Yeah, but your elbow's sort of sore. Yeah, I'm doing it. Now, let me qualify. One of the worst things can happen if you're trying to exercise is injury. You want to minimize injury at all costs, but you know how it is. You just get just a tiny little pain. You think, oh, I better not today. Well, is that truly because you're on the verge of injury, or are you just looking for a reason not to? I'm just so tired. You know what I mean? You must talk to yourself. Whatever you're trying to accomplish in anything, you must talk to yourself and convince yourself you can. You know, some of us remember the age of the motivational speaker. I don't hear so much about them anymore. Maybe they're still going on. Like Marty Robbins, was that his name? Or was that the singer? Who am I thinking of? Somebody tell me. There was somebody that had a name like that that was exceedingly popular, like in the 80s and 90s. And then some of you also may remember Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I think all those folks, they got a bad rap because, certainly with Norman Vincent Peale, it was almost, it was too new agey, too almost like we become God. We can control every factor, every event or whatever. However, I mean, I read Peele's book and I thought there was a lot of great stuff in it. If you remove the rationale behind it and the poor view of God from his teaching, there is an element of it that I think is closer to faith than the way he phrased it. So I don't care. I'm not suggesting you read it, and I'm not suggesting those, don't mishear me. I'm not endorsing Peele or the Tony Robbins. Thank you. What Marty Risley, I got singing on my mind. Tony Robbins. But there is, I think, an element of truth to the fact that getting in the proper mindset that you can do this is crucial to actually going forward in any of the things you want to go forward in. And we just have so many voices saying you can't, or giving us excuses or whatever. And I would encourage you to take some time. If you were to do what I'm telling you to do, choose that goal, dream it, envision it, plan for it, decide, and then start acting. Make it a regular habit to say the words, certainly in your head, maybe out loud, I can do this. My marriage can be better. And use this as a matter of prayer. Lord, I want to do this. I believe this is good. I think this is part of, something that would be just enjoyable in this life, or good for my relationship with my spouse or my mom or my sister or whatever. I know I would function better in all the other things I want to do if I lost 15 pounds, whatever, right? So Lord, give me the strength, give me the whatever I need. And then, Lord, I believe I can do this. With your help, I can do this. I think everybody needs to do far more talking to themselves than listening to the voices in their head. I think a lot of good and a lot of progress is what's the word I'm looking for? Is prevented because we listen to our voices instead of talking to ourselves. So that's what I would encourage you to do. All right, I've said enough. I'll leave it there. Have a great weekend, everybody. Get something done. Figure out which of those steps you need to do. Maybe it's just start with planning or envisioning and get it done. All right. Have a great one. We will see you all on Monday to get back to Matthew. Grace and peace to you.